Tonight I want to speak to the war that has been waged, against, our women, black women. That a war that, we witnessed, play out, in the Democratic, primary, specifically, directed at, Kamala Harris, who, in the grand scheme of things, she probably was the only, truly viable, candidate, that had that could have, possibly, posed a challenge, to President Trump. Okay. So that war is what I wanted to, get into, tonight. So I'm going to start off with, just a little anecdote, a little story, to kind of, telegraph my point, in this dialogue tonight about, this war that's being waged against, black women. And, because if we don't, totally understand, how that war is playing out or has played out, okay, we could talk about, the whole welfare manipulation, that, caused such chasms, in our current experiences as, black people in the community, today. But just a little, story to kind of telegraph my point to, get this, third episode of, One Angry Black Republican, podcast. So, with that being said, I, was in, some years back, maybe, late 90s, I was in, South Africa. And, I was at a bar in Cape Town one night. Okay. And, I'm, if you ever been to South Africa, then the exchange, money exchange is, they call it rands in, South Africa. And I so $1, $1 American dollar, equaled 5 rand. Okay. So you kind of can see, how your money can stretch out. So, when you're over there. So when that direct deposit hit, my account, I'm like, what? I'm in the bar chilling, and I've always been a night owl. So when everybody's sleeping, all the students are in there, in the hotel room, everybody's sleeping. Me and a couple of teachers, we're in the bar, just drinking, hanging out. And then, I got into this conversation, with a, South African sister. And, she was a student at a university, down there, I think it was the Fundu Art Center. So, we're, and, her and her girlfriends, it was about 3 of them. Like, literally, she had one girlfriend who, looked just like Janet Jackson. They were all students at this Fundu Art Center. So, we chopping it up, and we drinking Savannah's, right? That was the beer of, choice down there. And, this is the late 90s. Everybody is baller culture. You know what I'm saying? It's like, the ballers are running things. So it's like every black men, we have always, moved in the direction. I guess they call it waves today, but the wave back then was like the ballers, like, when Jay-Z, dropped, I remember being around a lot of ballers, you know what I mean? And, they really took, to Jay-Z and kind of like directed the culture in that, direction. But, so I'm, chilling here and I'm balling. Like, I got my direct deposit just came through. I'm like new to the teaching game. I'm like, I'm teaching science. I taught science. And, listen, you know, I'm you know, $1. We from America, you know. If you're an American and you did the club, and I did the club, okay. I mean the Peppermint, the Mirage, you know, the Zanzibar Sensations, you know, the Tunnel. Name it, we was there. I was there. You know, and I like going to a lot of spots by myself. You know, I'm got a whole nother podcast. You know, Mercedes and Mink one night. You know what I mean? You know, when I almost got knocked upside my head that night. You know what I mean? But I'm in the bar. I'm like in my feelings. I'm in the middle of it. Whatever. I don't even want to talk about that right now. But anyway, so at this, you know, bar, we, you know, me and the sister, because I met her first. You know, we sitting there talking. You know, we drinking Savannah's, and I'm buying all of them drinks. That's why I was like, I'm balling. I'm like, yo, you want to drink? I feel like I'm a man down there, whatever. So, we, you know, she's telling me about, you know, her story. You know, she gone to you know, she had gone to you know, her mother, you know, lived on in a squatter camp. Okay, you know, so she was, you know, actually, I think the first, you know, person in her family to actually, you know, get, you know, into you know, a university. You know, so she's, you know, student at this university, and you know, so, you know, she had told me, and this is the big point about this story. She had told me that, you know, she had got a scholarship, you know, to go to Howard University in America. And, you know, me being, you know, a Europeanized, you know, black man, you know, who was coming out of that, you know, conditioned Europeanism, you know, I was floored. I was like, what? You know, and you know, this also speaks to how, you know, we, you know, Americans kind of marginalize, you know, other, you know, the education system in other cultures. I mean, in recent, you know, years, we can see that that's a fallacy. But, you know, so I'm like flabbergasted that, you know, this South African, you know, woman had gotten a scholarship, you know, to come to America and, you know, study at Howard University. You know, so I'm like, when are you coming? But I'm getting all, you know, ahead of myself. And then, you know, her whole mood and tone shifts. You know, and I'm recognizing, you know, the energy shift. You know, she looks at me with this, you know, scowl on her face, as if I had, like, burn your tongue, boy. You know, she said, never. She said, I would never go to America. She said, I would rather return, you know, to the squatter camp that my mother is on before I ever give up who I am to get, you know, socialized as an American. And I think, you know, that moment, okay, you know, because, you know, one of the classes that, you know, actually two classes at Rutgers that really, you know, helped, you know, focus my attention. You know, one was, you know, a course, you know, called Afro Musicology. You know, I remember brother, you know, I think it was Yusef Ali. You know what I'm saying? I remember this brother like, you know, he was talking about, you know, one of his lessons. He was speaking about, you know, how black women, you know, had been, you know, kind of engineered. He was talking about the engineering of black culture via music, and you know, he was, you know, speaking about, you know, probably one of the most titillating songs he's ever heard in his life, and he said it was, you know, Salt-N-Pepa's, you know, Push It. You know, he was talking about, you know, he said, you know, a song like that, you know, push it good, and the way they are dressed, you know, in the video, you know, very, very, you know, titillating. And I remember, you know, looking at the brother's spirit, I'm like, yeah, this guy, you know, the Salt-N-Pepa must have, they must have turned this guy out or whatever. But, you know, that course, And then I think the big course was black women in the U.S. And I can't remember the sister's name for the life of me, which also probably speaks to chauvinism. You know, I remember my first script, Dirty Mattress, that I wrote. I let a sister, you know, this African-centered sister, when I was teaching her Harlem, read the script. And the next day she came back and she said, you know, you're a chauvinist. And I couldn't, yo, just by reading the script, she said I was a chauvinist. And I've heard that, you know, over the years, whatever. I don't, you know, agree with. I just don't think people have the patience to really, get, when you get to know someone, you could either stay at the high school level or you get your PhD in on them. Like, when I like my relationships to, I like my partner to want to get a PhD in B, because I want to, get a PhD in you. You know what I'm saying? And that comes if we learn to pay close attention, to one another. So it's a beautiful thing when you see, two people have reached that plateau. You know what I'm saying? And they don't, and don't get me wrong. I think, a lot has been done, in terms of music and, the culture, that has really, broken, us in so many ways. But, and the brother Lawrence reminded me of that, tonight, brilliant brother, I've been, speaking to, and, I'm going to be interviewing this brother tomorrow, for the podcast tomorrow. Definitely a must, hear, but, we have this, this conditioned reality that we live under, and so it's like, on the one hand, survival is important, so because of survival, we have to move a certain way, so, if your partner is a go-getter, who is organized and has a vision that comes from the grass up in terms of that survival and what you must represent in that situation, then I can see it easy, it being easy, and for couples to really express that kind of interest in one another, that that creates those bonds that last. Where, I remember Sonia Sanchez saying about, I want to see every wrinkle, form. I want to watch your body change. I want to, because I'm so into you. You know what I mean? It's like, how do we get there if we're not there as a people, holistically? Okay, so, and I'm kind of like, rambling and, getting away from the point, but, so I'm floored, by this, woman's perspective. And, the rest of the night, because, they wanted to show me, what the real community of South Africa was like, and I wanted to see it, so literally, like, we went and, rented a car, that night, and I remember, and it was real cheap. I want to say I probably spent like $5. Okay, let's say like, 50 rand, so, come out to like, what, $5 or $10, whatever. So I get, this car, and literally it's like we driving through the jungle. It's like, it is like pitch black. We're driving through the jungle and we get to this opening where this building is there. And I mean, we go upstairs and, Obama, this is my, one of my first weed moments, because, literally it was like, as we walked in, the whole place was like lit with, weed, all smoke all over the place. We go to the back. I think I pull out like a couple rand. We get this sack of weed. I mean, a sack of crime. We lit the whole night. I go back to the dorm. I'm like, it was one of those moments where, that paradigm shift, shifted. Because I had been studying black women in the United States in this course. And, I remember the intense debates. I would get into with, the sisters in this class. Because, coming out of, Newark, we get conditioned a certain way, and, when you try to take, a person who is, I guess, emotionally on edge all the time, and you thrust them into this serene environment, where you're not, used to the way dialogue unfolds. Okay. I'm supposed to shut up and listen to this sister as she's giving her, rebuttal to what I just said and how outraged she might be as to what I just said. And, I'm sitting here jumping in, trying to interrupt, at, any moment. And I think that is what I'm trying to get at, the way we marginalize, women. And the way we especially as black men, because a lot of us took on the relationship, that, white men had to white women. They took on a lot of that behavior. Think about how ugly the behavior must be. Well, just think about how ugly plantation life must have been. Okay, you got this, this slave master, who is pretty much a horn dog. He's, so much and a pedophile. He's preying on, those little black girls on those plantations. Okay, imagine you being, this white wife and, this white man, oh honey, I'll be back later. I'm going to go out and check on the slaves. And then he just walks up to some slave's home, knocks on the door, and, so the husband, this big, strong slave, walks up to the door, says, he already know. Okay, he already know. And this black woman has to walk out and go satisfy this man. Think about the brutality of that kind of the moment, that moment in history. Think about the brutality of that moment in history. The ugliness we witnessed, okay, in the kind of evil that projected itself in those communities. Maybe that's why, mothers are like bears when it comes to the protection of, their children from their perspective. Okay, so it's the way we've allowed ourselves as men, to almost marginalize, the female voice, and I'm not, saying this to pander to that, community, okay, because I've dealt with a lot of, some of the other stuff, but I ain't gonna get all that in this particular podcast because I just want to outline the reality I'm talking about. About this war on black women in this culture, in American culture, that is part and parcel responsible for a lot of the things we deal with as a culture, because they're used a lot. So, and how it, affected, the Democratic, the Democratic primary. Okay, because you had Kamala Harris, who, when you look at this overall picture that we're, in, currently, and why I am, attempting to, reason with us, so to speak, reason with us to, seriously consider aligning ourselves, with the Republican Party as a means, okay, let's not forget this, as a means to strengthen our vote as a people. It's like we already know how powerful the black vote is. Man, I hope I'm not coming down with coronavirus. I did, hear, that, this thing is, blowing all the way out of, proportion. Whew. I did, come across a couple of, I don't know how many people are still, hanging out in Chinese restaurants or whatever, but, I would like to, give that quick, public service announcement, if, I don't know how massive this, coronavirus reality is. I must say, I know people are talking about, staying in and not moving around. There's some school districts are closing, like literally. I think I was talking to brother today, Paul. My man's out in Atlanta, and he was telling me about like the whole Fulton County school system has been shut down. So I'm just hearing how big it's getting. So when I do coughing, I'm like, okay. Let me think. Maybe I need to start, doing something. Maybe I saw a couple of people in them little face masks today. But getting back to my power hour. In looking at how fragile the Democratic Party, it was like watching, brick after brick fall, and, unwise decision after unwise decision, like for example, Nancy Pelosi, who knew the Democratic Party was moving in the wrong direction, but, emotionalism has power, the Roman mob. Most of those, emperors in Rome, they knew the importance of, catering to the mob. They knew the power of the mob, and the mob moved through emotion. Okay, it moved through emotion. And, so, we've taken on that, maybe a lot of women in this culture use emotion as a weapon because it can be used as a weapon. If they have, discovered, that, male chauvinism is so pervasive, we don't get to see the kind of world that women get to see as men. Some of us might, I'm sure, if you're a $1 million rapper, and, you're into, bagging chicks. I remember the first time I heard that term in a classroom, and the little boy said, bagging chicks. And I'm looking at this kid like, are you kidding me? Because we do have this, subtle conditioned, behavior, that makes us, leads us into that direction of marginalizing, women. So I had the luxury of studying, in this class, black women in the United States, and couple that with, Afromusicology, where we are reading, blues people, that's when I was introduced to Amiri Baraka, so it was the first time I met Raz, it was a no-brainer that, I would be, kind of like, and this was, at one of those 100 black men meetings we had back then, before, heading back home, so, we have this, pervasive, chauvinism that dominates American politics. And, it's so pervasive. Okay, Hillary Clinton might have been one thing. There's a whole history of corruption there. So it was, when she lost overall, you know, whether she won the popular, I know there's a lot of, you know, whatever. She lost the election, you know, to Donald Trump. Okay, and you know, I wasn't so overwhelmingly, you know, annoyed with that, you know, because, you know, I have my own issues with, you know, the Clintons, but, you know, Kamala Harris was something different. I had not, you know, known, you know, who Kamala Harris was, you know, and, you know, when I, you know, seeing her on that stage, you know, I just kept seeing, you know, what would it have been like to, you know, put all of their investment into like a Cory Booker and Kamala Harris, you know, team. I mean, how you know, powerful of a symbol would that have been, you know, for you know, black folk and black people. So, you know, because at that time, you know, when I was in my Cory Booker phase, I was more, you know, I mean, I was biased. You know, I'm from Newark. You know, Cory was on that stage representing Newark, and you know, he, you know, was he was black. Okay, I've gone through my own evolution in terms of, you know, my you know, reasoning when it comes to, you know, the color line or the color wall, you know. But Du Bois' color line, that still sticks with us, you know, whether we want to deal with it or not, or whether we choose to you know, not look directly at the problem. But there is a race problem in America, okay, and it's rooted a lot in, you know, ideology on both sides of the fence, okay. And, you know, anytime I think about a civil war breaking out, I'm thinking along racial lines. I don't know what else, you know, other people are thinking, but that is where my understanding had gone up until that point. You know, so yes, I was, you know, very much, you know, committed, you know, after experiencing, you know, President Obama, you know, for 8 years. Okay, I loved that experience. Okay, I loved, you know, I mean, you know, one of the moments that kind of did it for me was watching Jesse Jackson in tears. That was such a classic moment for me. He's the one I see in my head, you know, when I think about Barack Obama overall and what he did. You know, I was a teacher, you know, and, you know, constantly facing, you know, conversation after conversation. It's like every year I did a poem contest with my students that, you know, dealt with, you know, a poem about their father and their mother. Okay, they always, every one of my, they always did a poem about their fathers and their mothers. And, you know, I like to do music, and, you know, I'm an artist. So at the end of the day, so I've always used music in the class, you know, and, you know, so, you know, because I would take kids through the process, you know, where, you know, they would, you know, select a beat, instrumental, you know, they would pick a theme, you know, start to write their poem, and then we would record them. You know, so I got a CD, 2 CDs, okay, of, you know, my students at, you know, from, you know, my students from 13th Avenue, you know, my students from, you know, Link when I was there, you know, and my students from the Greater Newark Charter School, you know, like, you know, we have these productions, okay. And I usually focus on the father poems, you know, because every one of those poems, you know, are so dark when it comes to the relationship between, you know, children and their fathers. You know, I remember one sister, you know, who wrote one in her poem, like one of her bars in the poem, you know, sticks in my head because she, you know, it was brilliant. She called her father. She said, you know, every time I see him, you know, he's like a hologram. You know, he's here, but he's not here. I thought that was like so amazing. And this was a young girl at, you know, at Link when I was over there, and you know, and I have that poem on the CD that we did when I was there. You know, so maybe in, you know, some podcasts in the future I'll kind of share that. You know, especially when I, you know, get into the conversation later on, you know, and talk about how hip hop, has been weaponized and pretty much used against us for a long time, which is also part and parcel to why we have this continued nurtured reaction to women. I think black men have been under assault to move in that direction of being abusive in a larger sense towards black women. And after hearing about R. Kelly, oh my God, that totally pissed me off. And I was kind of my daughters, we had so many conversations about the R. Kelly situation, and they were not about to let me listen to anything R. Kelly, like literally, which is one of the reasons I wrote the song I did, about R. Kelly, fuck R. Kelly, let the little girls go, no means no ma. I did that because of the pressure they had me under, because they were like totally anti R. Kelly. And as I re-examine R. Kelly, I'm like listening to some of the songs, and it's like, my mind's telling me no, but my body, like, I'm saying to myself, oh my God, it's like, and then listening to some of the other podcasts, because I love podcasts. That's why I'm doing. One of the reasons I always thought about doing a podcast, and it just happened that this particular cycle, especially since my evolution sent me to a place where I'm literally on the side of pushing us to supporting the Republican Party, but and that evolution happened because of so much of so many of those experiences that kind of kept pushing the anger button, so to speak, in us as we experienced. But they were really on me about this whole R. Kelly moving away from that person, and then the Bill Cosby story. Bill, come on, man. The culture can't deny what Bill Cosby brought to the development of black people. Okay, Bill Cosby's important. Okay, so to say he's not important is just ludicrous. Yes, he, discovering that, he was knocking chicks out with with drinks, and, I can't imagine that situation. But, and then I was, let's not count out, the Afrika Bambaataa, and, the whole dilemma that this brother was in. Hassan Campbell, I definitely watch. He's one of my favorite podcasters. I peep him a lot. Big shout out Queen's Flip. I also, follow that. And definitely big shout out Big Sev. Always, I got my staples that, I push, but, it's like, I don't get a chance to, catch them all the time, but I also go back and I listen. I follow up. But I don't want my time to run out before I get back to this point about, how, the Democratic establishment, gunned down Kamala Harris, and how, listening to the vitriol that, rolls up from, some of the people I admire on the local scene, okay, and how, the whole, Kamala was a sister. Let's keep it gangster. She was a sister. You know what I'm saying? And the sister came with everything that our sisters come with. You know what I mean? And we love them. Period. Unconditional. We love them unconditionally. And I don't think it often shows, especially since so many take advantage of them. And we do. You know what I'm saying? You got, you got, and when brothers go into survival mode, I don't knock them either. So that's why it's difficult, when you try to bring, a proper analysis to oppressed people. People who have been oppressed for, forever. It's like, and that oppression doesn't always it's not always overt. Okay? You don't get to see all of those moments, especially those stop and frisk moments. Okay? Those 5 million stops, that could have went any way, but the belittling, of, officers, so many officers can be belittling, to blacks. And, if you're a black man and you're constantly, it's like I can get pulled over in Willingboro, by a white cop who, belittles me. And then I get pulled over in Bridgewater, and, on the same trip. And I leave Willingboro, I get pulled over, by a cop, and I'm belittled or marginalized. I'm harangued into, almost coming out of my character, and I gotta maintain my cool. And then I'm driving. I get pulled over in Bridgewater, same day, same moment. And then I make it, to I get pulled over in Jersey City, same moment, because I'm headed to the Bronx. I done pulled over 5 times, by 5 different officers. All who approach me with the same kind of arrogance and tone that, says boy, Now we don't get to, the world don't get to experience all of it. Okay, we don't. So there's a lot of subtle moments that kind of keep reinforcing this idea that we don't belong, that we're trying to change. And I think watching Jesse Jackson crying, we forget this brother was on the balcony with Martin when Martin was taken out. Okay, so this way we are with our women that marginalizes their voice, okay, shuts them down. You got a sister giving some intellectual argument on one of these news stations, and the brother and the white boy, they're constantly interrupting the sister, like, she gotta exert herself, like, listen, I'm not gonna let y'all keep, it's like, we can't imagine, what that walk is like, okay, because they experience so many subtle moments that we probably none of us ever will experience, especially when you're in a situation where there's a lot of people who think it's okay to violate another man's woman, and so you be walking down the street with your lady, and some cat on the corner is undressing her with his eyes, like, and it's like we don't have that that we're not at that place where we truly have looked in the mirror, and discovered our conditioned selves. And then try to move through a process by which we check ourselves and check that energy, that can come off. I'll liken it to what Harry Belafonte was talking about, in terms of the use of the word nigga. It's like, listen, I'm guilty. You listen to anything I've thought to put out. I definitely, love my niggas. I love my niggas. Like, I'm conditioned that way. You know what I mean? It's like, even the word bitch. It's like, these are like, for me, have always been like terms of endearment. It's like, I got some real, some real thorough bitches that, they'll get my ass. We banging. You know what I'm saying? But we love each other at the end of the day. It's like there's a unconditional love there, that will never be broken. But watching the Kamala Harris, comet, crash and burn, is all the more reason why it is time, to play a different ball game. Okay, we have followed, black leadership, down a rabbit hole. To be a black Democratic leader today. Okay, whether you're a congressman or, a mayor or a senator, okay, or even Obama, Obama, and don't get me wrong, I loved Obama's entire presidency, okay, but Obama didn't give us back Mumia. Okay, he could have pardoned Mumia. He didn't give us back Assata. He could have pardoned Assata. He didn't do that. Okay. Bloom. I had to wait for Bloomberg, the billionaire who don't care and says what he wants to say, to start, talking. I mean, listening to him. Well, if I didn't know he was a white man, I'd be like, well, the black man we know it's systematic racism. If a black man didn't have the money, like he went in, about, our condition. And it's like now it's okay to talk about. Now it's okay to talk about. And that's what separated Malcolm. That's why, when you think about Malcolm, it's like, our balls died. We're castrated with Malcolm. Because, we have convinced our people, that it is in our best interest. And I heard it, the first time under the banner of, protracted struggle. I remember that, the first time I heard that concept, protracted struggle. Wow. Get in the system, work the system, take over this institution and take over that one. And, now we got all of the institutions. When does the revolutionary process start? When does the theory start? When does the building of the theory start? If you truly believe that the only solution is revolution, and I held that belief, I still hold that belief. Okay, the only solution to the black male problem or the black problem in America is revolution, an entirely new system built from the ground up. Now, that might frighten people. Yeah, of course. But having to build an analysis around, the conditions that we're in and that we face, that would be a ludicrous, suggestion, today, especially, in light of the reality that, in terms of, getting the people to a place, collectively, where we actually are looking at, the system we're working in, and how we've constantly been trying to break down barriers, with the people that clearly, in so many respects, show that they're better off without us. How many white communities there are today, working and operating beautifully. People walking their dogs, and people relative privilege and feeling, totally, jogging up and down the street. And I know some brothers who say they'll never go jogging down in their community because, you got to worry about some cop riding down the street, seeing a brother jogging, and then boop, 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 next thing you pulled over and you frisk and thrown up against the wall because, you're trying to, you're jogging in your community. So the whole world's out here in this country that many of us, don't ever get to see. Killer of Sheep. It was one of the movies I remember when, Jesse Rhines, introduced that movie, to us. I was in a film course. Probably one of the reasons I wrote, I got into script writing and wrote Dirty Matches. I wrote it in his class. It's actually an assignment, for Jesse Rhines. And, his brother, him, he was, Spike Lee. It was, the brother told me this. So there's a lot of history out here that, you know, it's going to be transmitted orally, you know, and I do take that history, you know, important. It's important, you know. But Jesse Rhymes is the one who, you know, expressed this to me. He was like, you know, when Spike Lee, you know, finished the script for Malcolm X, he sent it to you know, two people that he knew of, himself, and he sent it to Amiri Baraka. Okay, so we are at a moment in American society that is, you know, we can liken as black people to a precipice. This is a precipice moment. Okay, because we really don't know. We really can't speak to the future at this point. But what we can do is we could examine the past and make a decision, you know, that moves us collectively in a direction that, you know, where we can start, you know, making some concrete moves as a culture to begin the kind of process that is necessary to truly, you know, breaking the social underdevelopment that we are in the midst of right now. Because right now we're in the midst of a social underdevelopment. You know, it's another thing I was, you know, talking with Brother Lawrence about tonight. We kind of talked a little bit about, you know, Manning, you know, Marble's book, how capitalism underdeveloped Black America, and, you know, how, you know, one of my beefs I got with, you know, Brother Cornel West, you know, his you know, analysis of the text that pretty much marginalizes, you know, the heavy weight of, you know, Marble's conclusion that, you know, it's genocidal at this point. And, you know, if we can't see that on the ground level, you know, we're you know, like, you know, you listen to any one of these young boy rappers today, and, you know, it's like, or young female rappers, because, you know, that's how the war has played itself out as far as Black women are concerned, because, you know, it's like our young girls don't see the power of, you know, protecting your chastity against, you know, it being violated, even if you think you're the one who want that. You'll learn in the end that you don't want that, because that's against your nature as the queen of the universe. Okay? You're not built to, you know, take in multiple people. You know, and you got some of these young girls out here, you know, who have weaponized, you know, the whole sexual process. You know, watching them three girls or them girls in that video, you know, bitch, I need a Henny and a plum. Listening to the City Girls, or, you know, the Meg Thee Stallions of the world, or, you know, the Nicki Minaj and, you know, Lil Kim. I used to be scared. I mean, when you really examine, you know, the development of music, you know, and this is something Yusuf Ali also talked about. You know, we went from groups like the Temptations, or, you know, the Four Tops, you know, the Supremes. You know, when you know, black folk, you know, would walk down the streets of Harlem, you know, with, you know, women and men dressed to the T, and they would parade themselves as, because that's when excellence, you know, was in the vocabulary, you know, and how we degenerated to, you know, old dirty bastard. I remember that so clearly. He said, man, we went from the Supremes and the Four Tops and the Temptations to old dirty bastard. and I kept thinking to myself, well, you know, there's how, you know, this legacy of of racism played out. That's how it played out. It's hard for, people in, the higher classes in America. Another thing I talked with the brother about, like, we gotta, class in this culture is associated with money. It's not associated with character, okay? Because if class was associated with character, how would that make the society? How would that look differently in the society if, you gave your respect, your admiration, and your attention, to those individuals, who are getting higher degrees, okay? And the kinds of characteristics, embodied in those individuals in those pursuits, okay? The adherence to a heavy work ethic, okay? The honor of good work, what if, working in McDonald's came with a stature, okay, that, could be, measured, based on, the way you behaved, that concept that the customer's always right. You ever been in a McDonald's today? that concept has gone all the way out the window. Where the customer's always right. Okay, well, you ain't never had a sister, with her ear pod in one ear, talking to her girlfriend about, how she about to go, run down on this Nick, and you ain't about to interrupt her. Can I get your order? Like you getting all the business, because, we're in a society right now where, the social order, is in such disarray, and it plays out so overwhelmingly in the Black experience. Okay, we have a music, where we have our the individuals who are the gatekeepers of Black music. They're willing to sacrifice message for production. So it's like, you'll take the hit where it comes to message. So you'll put a record out, where the message is, we gonna pop these bottles, we gonna shoot these guns, we gonna, and those experiences, because we only looking for artists who come from the experience, who gonna tell us stories about the experience. Those aren't the only artists. There's some artists who focus more on, content and, overall, expression and viewpoint. Pac said, that all of his music is designed to undermine white supremacy. And I think he truly believed that. But I truly believe that. As my artist life, it's like, when you're in your own zone, in your lane, trying to, articulate a vision. America has shown Black people so much evidence, given us so much evidence to suggest that, and the sad irony of the whole reality is that they know that. They know that. And you can feel that they know that. They know we haven't been, treated fairly. They know that. And I think a lot of them, are so terrified, especially, I know that was the case back then, when we saw the rise of organizations like the Nation of Islam. You can't take anything away from them brothers. Them brothers are sharp. Okay? Them brothers are soldiers. They were learning, and, they were if J. Edgar Hoover had to choose the one organization that, could have taken us to a place as a people, that moved us in the direction where we militarized, it was surely the Nation of Islam. They were watching. Okay? So, we haven't had a movement yet that was effective enough to put us in a place where we aren't allowing our selves and our culture to continue to underdevelop socially. Okay, it's like our next generation and our subsequent generations, they are probably, going, if we continue to move in the direction that we're moving, and we don't, do something drastic now. How drastic would that be if black people were to come together and support the Republican Party as a collective, and and create an agenda of expectations that we're gonna consciously look at, we're gonna consciously focus on, we're gonna have our eyes wide open. Okay, we have got to begin that process, and that's why I wanted to talk about this war against black women. We are the ones who have got to start doing things to move us in that direction. I remember when I was organizing an event in Hillside, I actually connected with groups of sisters and turned over the whole organization to those women, because one of the things we had a great event. It came out to be a great event. But that's what we were talking then, like trying to put women in a place of empowerment on a political level, and do it deliberately from the black community's perspective. Do we have that kind of integrity, or am I just delusional? Because I often get accused of being a romantic revolutionary, where I'm only focused on, it's only a romantic endeavor. I always counter that, it's not about glory, because if it was about glory, I would be in a totally different position at this point. If it was about the glory of the moment, or if it was about money, I could have sold, my first script. I got offers for a dirty mattress. All of my people knew, because we actually brought it and used it as an organizing tool to bring people together to try to shoot the movie ourselves. Okay, that's how important the script is. We started that process, but for whatever reason, we know things happen. But I had an offer to sell it just outright, to one of these major companies, and I refused to. It's like, okay, you can not see that check. Okay, that check comes with consequences. You get some big company comes through and they write you this check, and now they own the rights, to your message. They own you, basically. They own you. When you're a young boy, on a street corner, and you got this gift of words and rhythm, and you ain't got nothing, and somebody rolled through with a check for like 50 grand, and you like, your eyes get wide open. You know what I'm saying? But and a lot of them take that, and they sell their souls. But we have got to begin to reorganize our thinking, and I think it could begin by acknowledging the war that is being waged against our sisters, because and acknowledging the war that's being waged against us as well. But at some point, as men, we got to say, what, we're going to be the 300. We're going to walk with Leonidas, to the hot gates, and we're going to stand in the defense of our sister. I was listening to a brother who was talking about the walrus, and quickly, the walrus, when the child is being attacked, all of the female walruses surround the child. All the male walruses surround the women. We got to start learning how, as black men, to surround our women. Peace out. Episode 3.